Dan, we'll just note that John, if you can, John Grody, our president of our redevelopment commission, is with us remotely today, visually on the computer screen. And in that case, Dan Hobbs is going to run the meeting here in the council chambers. So Dan.
So go ahead and call to order the meeting, November 1st, 2002, for RDC. First item, approval of minutes from the October 11th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written in the packet from October 11th, 2022.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Wait to see if John was.
We have to do a
from you, John. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Approved.
Next item, claims approval. Looks like we have a few today. Sinclair Recreation for the Oak Hill Playground equipment, $81,974. Madison Courier, $194.39. Jacobia Tombs, various different projects, Wilson Avenue, RDC on call, Franks Drive intersection, $35,417.60. Gardner Insurance, sewer project, $1,250. Reedy Financial, $9,011.75. And Vector Engineers, $11,200. So everybody had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
Commissioner Hughes, we would like a roll call vote, please, on this motion,
Okay, all right.
only because John is remote.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is that good, or you want? Yeah, we should. Yeah, we'll do that. Grody? Aye.
Yes, I approve.
Hughes?
Approve.
Strauss?
Approve.
Sutton?
Approve.
Thank you. Next item, Madison Plaza bond disbursement. This is number 5, $78,033.48. Any questions on that? A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call. Grody?
Approve.
Hughes?
Approve.
Strauss?
Approve.
Suter?
Approve.
Next item, old business, monthly financial review.
Yeah, we have Gary Smith on the call today from Reedy and Vicky here today from Reedy to make some presentations. One's our annual Redevelopment Commission impact update, and then to talk about our monthly financials. So Gary, you want to start, or Vicky?
I'll let Gary start.
Yeah, Tony, this is Gary. I can. We've met with Tony, and he can elaborate more extensively if you'd like. But we've made some changes to the financial plan just to kind of consolidate it. There's a lot going on there. You guys had a capital plan as well. I think it was roughly 11 pages long. And the financial plan itself is almost 10 pages long. So we've consolidated a lot of the information you typically see, particularly with the capital plan, and really kind of summarized that in 2023 and 2024, which is in your packet. But we'll go through the plan, again, down to 5 pages. We've consolidated a lot of information. Really, the one thing that I would want to discuss, I guess 2 things that I want to discuss are page 4 of 5. This is one notable addition that we made to the plan, which was a monthly cash balance projection, because I don't think it's any secret. I mean, you guys are familiar with your revenue structure. You receive your main source of revenue, your TIP allocation settlements twice a year, once in June, once in December. And just because we're, you got $1 million, $2, $3 million cash balance in that fund does not necessarily mean that we have that cash balance all year. So when you guys are approving claims on a monthly basis, it's important to know, what's the cash situation look like today as opposed to what does it look like at the end of each year or at the beginning of each year. So just a little bit more information for you guys to look at. A lot of our clients really find this month over month snapshot on page 4 to be helpful. Going down to 2023 on page 4, again, we've updated this plan extensively through a 2+ hour conversation with Tony and Mayor. All those things to say, in 2023, you'll see ending the year with 422,000. Actually projecting it to go a little bit negative in November. Before that, otherwise, cash balance in every single month. We see that, we acknowledge it, we're actively working on solution. We kind of went through and looked at everything that we thought might be coming out in 2022, 2023, 2024, what kind of revenues we're looking at. We've updated this with 2023 projections for revenues. But, where does that difference come from? What kind of projects are we committed to, or what kind of projects would we like to pursue, and what does that look like with cash? So this is a reflection of all those conversations. Again, I think there's going to be potentially an issuance of Redevelopment Commission borrowing to fund some of this capital, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. But this is just kind of what it looks like right now. This is a working document, but I think we'll fix that here in just a second. On page 5, this is the snapshot at 50,000 feet. If the prior page is kind of a zoomed in look at 1 year. Page 5 is that really zoomed out, looking at all your historical years, your current year projections, and then 2 years into the future as well. So like we mentioned before, we dialed this in with TIF revenue collections. If you look at 2022 projections for revenues, we're just at about 1.6 million on the TIF revenue collection piece, 1.7 million. We did experience some growth by way of your TIF neutralization, certified net assessed value going into 2023. For that reason, we're projecting about 1,860,000 as our TIF revenue collection for 2023. Now, that's based on the certified net assessed values today. Those can change by the time we get from now into actually tax bills going out. So some things can change, but I think that's a decent estimate for where we are right now. Not married to that number, but that's where we are today. And then going down to the expenditure side, you'll see all the different areas of attention that we're looking at putting dollars to. And again, I'll defer to Tony if there's any specific questions on any one of these items. We've got all our debt payments, we've got all of our individual projects, Crystal Beach, all those sorts of things, and down to the bottom we have total expenditures. So I'll highlight. At the end of 2022, we're projected to have about $3 million in cash. Moving forward to 2024, we're looking at about that's right now. Moving forward to 2023, we're about 422,000. So you can see about a 2.6 million planned spend down of capital spending, and then in 2024. That total cash balance is about 2.4 million. So that sounds great, but where's that cash flow coming from? I'll take you back to the very top on 2024. We do have a $3 million bond proceed number that we're kind of assuming will be issued maybe sometime 2023, sometime 2024. When this actually happens, this won't really look like this because the bond proceeds won't go into this fund. They would actually go into a separate fund. And I think our collective goal would be, any of the projects that we're funding in 2023 within a certain amount of time, we would be pursuing a reimbursement from those bond proceeds to the 214 fund, this fund that we're looking at. So again, I think, we saw that month-over-month cash balance negative in 2023. We're talking about potentially the bond issuance in 2024 to fund some of these capital items. So this is just, like I said, this is a snapshot of where it is today. It's not really going to look like this. But we wanted to get pen to paper on all the projects we had, pen to paper on revenue projections, and then kind of see what that difference was for bond funding and then we'll really kind of start dialing it in from there. So that's all I have on the financial update. Lots of updates, lots of changes, but I do think this is a much more accurate picture of where we currently are, just moving forward.
Thanks, Gary. I would just add too that as we talked earlier in the year in Q1 and Q2, as we started to make these investments in some of these capital projects, that we'd want to start to really understand the impact on cash. We knew that there would be more outflow than potentially inflow here as those projects start to roll in. That's part of the reason why we've had Reedy get into the cash flow analysis. The commission hasn't had that in the past because we haven't had as many projects ongoing as we currently do, as we've all talked about the necessary investment and leveraging of those TIF dollars. So we feel fairly comfortable. You'll note that we still have a $750,000 cash reserve goal at the end of each year. And so you'll start to understand that there's a little bit of potential cash issue at the end of 2023. But as we've talked about moving that Series B bonds, we'll talk a little bit more about that later into 2024 to help leverage our Ready 2.0 dollars. Because again, we understand the state is looking for another round of Ready, which back in the beginning of the year when we talked about that Series B bond, we weren't expecting. So we've been working through some project lists for Ready 2.0, and as a part of that, would look to leverage the North Madison allocation area dollars in 2024 for those Ready funds. And we still have about another year where we can do that. Those would be 10-year bonds, which would align with 2035 is the expiration of that allocation area. So again, not a lot of strategy has changed from the beginning of the year, just the way things are shifting a little bit due to some other allocation of dollars potentially from the state of Indiana. Mary, any other updates?
Yeah, I just want to add that we've been speaking a couple of years now about the importance of capital planning. Many of the projects we work on are discretionary, so as we work through the year, and even though we have a $750,000 targeted liquidity reserve, that we would fall under that dollar amount, many of the projects that we work on through the year are kind of they're always fluid, because one of the things we've emphasized, and today we're going to be really highlighting that, is that many of the projects that we're doing are in partnership with others. And so they're doing private fundraising or relying on grants. And so the timetable for some of these projects are always shifting, but we have to be prepared for it from a capital planning perspective. And as Tony mentioned, one of the most critical elements of where we are now with the maturity of this TIF district is being able to leverage the revenues in the North Madison allocation area before time runs out and it expires. Because we have a lot of capital intensive projects across the community that we want to do in partnership with others, we're going to need by 2024 to leverage up the North Madison allocation area to help us finance and fund some of these projects across. And it's an array of infrastructure, park improvements, housing, shopping, quality of life investments that you're already seeing through grants and the commission dollars is already making a pretty big impact across the community. So a lot of what we do and talk about internally here as it relates to the TIF district is the capital planning, because it can be so impactful across the community. And you're going to get I think a great example of how impactful public-private partnerships are with the city that's making a difference all across the community.
Mayor, I might also remind the commission too that in these projections, we're very conservative on assessed valuation. And we know that investment brings additional assessed valuation. And so in 2025 through 2035, that assessment will continue to rise, even though we've maintained that as an even number at present day values when we're planning. So again, we'll be successful. If we're successful in leveraging these investment dollars, we should be successful in seeing the growth of AV in those subscriptions.
There's literally tens of millions of dollars of construction going on across the community now that's not even factored into our numbers, because those assessed values really won't start happening until 2025. But we always have an eye on the horizon with regards to the planning aspect of it.
Is there any questions from the commission for Gary or myself or the mayor? Gary, Vicky, or you want to present the impact update?
I can take a stab at that too, Tony, and obviously Vicky can fill in any gaps that I might miss or help relay any questions you might have. Might be.
I think we have that on.
We have that on, John, can you see our shared screen?
Hold on.
No, I'm watching it on YouTube. No, I can't see your screen.
There we go, we're gonna
When you move it now, I can see.
How's the YouTube feed?
It's good.
Oh, good.
It's late.
Can you see it now, John?
Yep, now I can see it.
Yeah, thank you. Vicky and Gary?
So, did everyone have the PowerPoint labeled the TIP impact update in front of them?
I have it pulled up, Gary. I'm gonna follow along
Okay.
with you. Yep.
Okay. And again, Vicky, jump in as well with any comments. But this is kind of an informal deadline. This impact came out a couple of years ago. Some of you may be familiar with this. Recent legislation dictates that on an annual basis that we will be required to present the impacts that the Madison Redevelopment Commission has on all the overlapping units. We're to include financial data, budgets, long-term plans, and just an overall discussion. So we invite all the overlapping units to come and hear us and present what this quote-unquote hypothetical impacts, financial impacts that the Redevelopment Commission of Madison has on the overlapping taxing units, city, county, school, township, special districts, etc. So that's what this is. It's on an annual basis. Again, there's no due date. It's just annually. So this is our this is when we're doing it for Madison. On page 3, this just kind of summarizes the allocation areas as part of the requirements. So North Madison allocation area is generating all the dollars. Nothing overly insightful or nothing you don't already know there. So that's pretty straightforward. We do include a little bit of education too during this meeting, just because it's a good chance to do that. So it's page 4 of the PDF. It's kind of a how TIF works, illustration. So how it works is down there on the far right you see this little illustration with base assessed value. Picture that being all the assessment within the parcels that make up the North Madison allocation area. They have an assessment back in 1994. They had an assessment, and that assessment is still part of the tax base for all the overlapping taxing units. And if that base assessment grew because just the price of the 2x4 was going up, or just because property values in general were going up, all of those taxing units continue to receive that assessment as part of their tax base. Where Madison Redevelopment Commission comes into play would be any sort of increase in assessments over and above that base assessment for factors that could be due to new construction, abatement, or appeals, and consequently new destruction as well. So an example would be, let's assume we had a $100,000 commercial building assessed in 1994, and that building is currently worth $200,000 today because things are just worth more now than they were in 1994. All of the overlapping taxing units would be receiving the full $200,000 of assessment on that property. The Redevelopment Commission would not be capturing any of those dollars. Let's say hypothetically that same building that was $100,000 in 1994 and is worth $200,000 today does they add on that building, and now it's worth $300,000. The Redevelopment Commission would capture that new construction elements in the amount of $100,000 as increments. So on that illustration, you'll see that little triangle there. Incremental AV goes to the Redevelopment Commission for redevelopment purposes. That's where that increase is coming from. It's coming from new construction only. It's coming from abatement. Those are generally the two items that it comes from, more so than anything. And again, consequently, if it was a $200,000 building and they tore it down completely and now it's worth nothing, that would take away $200,000 of assessment from the Redevelopment Commission. So that's just generally kind of how assessment and TIF works. Again, just because something's in an allocation area doesn't mean we're capturing all of it. It just means that we have the ability to capture the portions that are new construction or, redevelopment reasons. And then at the end of the 25 years, cruising along, you'll see the TIF eventually will expire. And what happens is all of that base assessment and all of that incremental assessment, it now becomes one and the same. That is now the assessed value for all the taxing units in the area. So that's how TIF works from an assessment perspective. We'll touch on this just a little bit more here in a moment. There's a rate discussion to be had, and there's also an assessment discussion to be had. That's the assessment piece. Going forward to page 5, financial position. This is just part of the requirements. So again, nothing overly insightful here. Just beginning year balance, revenues, expenditures, and the year-ending fund balance there. Again, just required to be disclosed as part of the process. Current and future plans. You'll see. Again, you guys are familiar with these current ongoing projects. All that's part of your monthly plan you guys do. Future plans, all that's part of the plan that you see monthly. So nothing you've not seen there either. So page 7, the TIF impact question. In order to help quantify a TIF impact to the overlapping units, we must ask some questions. And the reason we say this is, TIF impacts is we calculate a number to say, hey, the Madison Redevelopment Commission impacts you in these ways. But that's really kind of not a true statement because, as we all know, a lot of the development in Madison would not have occurred if it weren't for the Redevelopment Commission incentivizing that development. So that's what we like to call the but-for test. If it weren't for the Redevelopment Commission and the dollars you were generating, you wouldn't have generated all that value anyways. So if you accept that premise, the answer on the impact is always 0. Like, if we were to go back in a time machine and eliminate the Redevelopment Commission entirely, would the city of Madison still be in the same position that it is today? And the argument to be made is no, that it would not, so therefore there is no impact. So that's one of the things that we want to ask ourselves. Take the impacts we're showing you with a grain of salt. That's a dollar projection, assuming, hey, we incentivized all this increase in development because of this amazing tool, but let's pretend like it never existed and then quantify an impact to the overlapping units is essentially what it's asking us to do, which isn't a fair way of looking at it, but that's what we're being asked to do. So that's what the questions are. The city never utilized TIF, and is all the current development incentivized and made possible with the assistance of TIF? Hypothetically, would it have occurred? So again, the point of that slide is just to say, take these impacts with a grain of salt because this is just a projection based on what other units would collect if we just eliminated the TIF altogether, and that's what page 8 does. So on page 8, there's a TIF impact chart. So you'll see the overlapping units. We got Madison Civil City, Madison Consolidated Schools, Jefferson County Library, Madison Township, and Southeastern Indiana Solid Waste. So all of those units potentially could be impacted because we're capturing assessed value within the Madison Redevelopment Commission. So when we quantify this, I'll say the common misconception is, Madison collects. We collected $1,690,000 in 2022. That's what we collected. Most people think, well, if the TIF didn't exist, then the city, the school, the county, etc., would all receive some proration of that 1.6 million, 1.7 million, and that's simply not how it works. If Madison, if Madison Redevelopment Commission went away today and all that assessed value was released into the base, other units would collect more dollars, but they wouldn't collect it on a dollar-for-dollar basis. So what we project is that, Redevelopment Commission, Madison, you're collecting roughly 1.7. If you did not exist, all the other overlapping units would collect roughly $900,000 in additional revenue. And the only reason that they would collect additional revenue is because of circuit breaker, and that gets kind of complicated. But essentially, in a community where you have high tax caps, like in Madison, it means that mostly everyone's at the tax cap. So if I'm a 1% residential homeowner with $100,000 assessed property, for instance, and my tax bill was $2,000, I wouldn't pay 1,000 of that because I'm capped at 1%. So that loss is the piece that we're talking about, like where's it go, how's it allocated, all that sorts of things. And again, that gets really complicated. But if all things being equal, if all the assessment that you're currently capturing gets released to all the overlapping taxing units, the impact that it has is a slight reduction in tax rate is what actually happens. So the tax rates get reduced, and none of the taxpayers will see a reduction in the tax bill, but all the overlapping units will experience a reduction in their circuit breaker tax credit, is what it means. And that means a lot, but basically the impact lies in that circuit breaker piece. So again, we're collecting 1.7 million. If we release all of that to the units, tax rates would fall marginally. No taxpayers would notice a decrease in their tax bill, and all the overlapping units would experience a circuit breaker loss reduction that we project conservatively in the realm of 900,000. So all that being said, we have this TIF margin concept we've coined. Basically, what it means is, we're collecting almost $800,000 more in revenue that we otherwise would not have collected if it weren't for the Madison Redevelopment Commission. So we call that a TIF margin. We're collecting dollars that we would otherwise not be available due to this concept. And again, just wanted to reiterate, these numbers are all hypothetical based on the questions we answered earlier. Would all this value be here otherwise if we didn't incentivize it? And that's a pretty common argument to make here as far as what TIF impact looks like. So page 9, TIF impact explained, that goes over exactly the same thing that I just discussed, and then we wrap up with questions. So does anyone have any questions on that? I know circuit breaker and TIF, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, but I hope that made some sense.
Commissioner, I hope you thought that was, or found that helpful, because I'm on the AIM State Legislative Committee, and every year we are, working with our state assembly on educating, particularly the assemblymen, on the benefits of TIF districts for redevelopment commissions. And at some point in time, in 2035 or maybe sooner for some older TIF districts, this legislation that created the TIF districts will expire. And so a tool that City of Madison Redevelopment Commission has used now for 30 years, was a TIF district created in 94-ish, it'll go away. And what's it going to be replaced with? And here, as Gary was describing, we've made a real impact with regards to assessed values and quality of life projects and co-investment with public-private partnerships all across the city. So we're constantly looking at creating new allocation areas like we did with Super ATV and with the Northwest one for Sunrise Crossing. And then a few years ago, they created a downtown TIF district so we could bring investments downtown and have the entire community benefit from these higher AVs and higher tax collections. So hopefully that was helpful. That's more educational than anything else, but it is an annual requirement.
John or Commissioner, do you have any questions for Gary or Vicki on that?
I thought it was a good discussion, again, very helpful.
Under old business, I do have one.
Gary, do we need to approve that annual report?
I would just have in the minutes that you did it. It doesn't require any action.
I do have one additional piece of business under old business. I wanted to update folks on the Madison Plaza Sunrise Crossing project. As you know, we have received bids on the sewer project, and that pre-construction meeting exists. Oh, sorry. Mike was off. Would like to update the commission on the Sunrise Crossing project. We did receive bids last month and approved for the sewer project. That pre-construction meeting is this week, and we will be beginning to have the construction for that. The dry detention basin is well underway, and we are making some additional plantings on that basin for some of the neighbors with some view shed concerns, so I wanted to let you know that as well. We did, as you know, I reported that we rebid the Michigan Road project for the traffic light and roadway improvements necessary for that intersection. I'm not happy to report we again received no bids. The feedback from the engineers and in conversation with the construction companies that do the kind of work, they're all extremely busy. This is an extremely small project for them. Those are very highly specialized construction companies that can install traffic signals. And so we had no bids again for the second time. As you remember, last month, we went ahead and approved the ordering of the long lead items for the traffic signal, which we did do. Those have been placed in order. I will remind the commission, under the Economic Development Agreement, traffic light and intersection improvements have to be complete by May 31st, or there is a penalty. So given that, in consultation with our council, I'll let Joe make a observation and request for a motion for you on that project.
Yeah, this is one of the first times this has happened for us involving a project, but it has happened in the past. And under Indiana Code 36-1-12-9, the commission can declare an emergency. And in doing so, we would name companies and collect quotes from those companies in order to do the work and award the work to the lowest responsive quoter. And so I think at this point in time, that's what we're left with, and it's pursuant to the statute. We would need a motion to declare this an emergency with regard to collecting the bids, and request that the quotes be made from Saddam, All-Star, and O'Mara.
Entertain a motion. For any further discussion on that, I guess before.
Get a
Motion,
motion, a second, we'll have
no
a discussion.
discussion.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Well, hold on one second. Is
We're
there
gonna
any
open for
discussion?
Discussion now, then we'll approve the.
Is there any questions on that?
Questions,
I mean, it's kind of
comments?
a different type of situation, but I think given the fact that we've tried twice, this is the situation we're in.
Yeah, and I would say from a previous experience of 30 years in the design business, we've never had this situation, and neither have our engineers, JTL. Again, given the moment in time we're in and the environment we're in, it's just, there's a lot of projects, especially in the state highway department with traffic signals and other roadway work. And again, this is one of those little projects that it's big to us and important to us, but given the grand scheme of everything, it's seemingly, that was the feedback we got. So,
What was our budget for that portion of Sunrise Crossing development?
800,000.
So Joe, so obviously, if this goes through and they present those quotes, are we obligated to take the lowest one, or do we have any?
I guess you're not obligated to. It is going to be the lowest responsive and responsible quoter. And so if you felt like
They weren't responsive, so
either they weren't responsive to the specs, or you didn't feel like it was responsible based upon certain aspects, then you could reject them.
And
Is there guidance on that rejection process?
I'll have to review and look at the statute, but yeah.
If it comes in out of our budget, for example, that would be a reason to reject it. We've rejected a couple of bids now through Board of Public Works because of that reason. They were outside the budget. This really will allow us to have more of a private negotiation with three bidders, for example, that we're already familiar with our budget.
Yeah, and generally speaking, these are three bidders that have had a history with the city, so.
And I would say too, in consultation with the contractors after the first bidding process, we made adjustments to the spec and to some of the requirements that they had said were hindrances to them responding. Of course, there's a 5-week, 6-week lag time in there because you've got to advertise again and go through that. And then again, the issue of time, not enough time for them, they're too busy. Other bids came in, they want other work. I mean, it was just a, common thing that it was the project size was too small. So we will be working with JTL to split that package, those packages up to those contractors, which hopefully will allow us to get the traffic signal and the intersection done by the declared date in the EDA. I would also say we've had conversations with the developer on that. Those dates are being driven by the occupants of the new shopping center as a part of their lease agreements, which we were all aware of as a part of the early EDA discussions. So we will also, and the developer does want to work with us to if there's any flexibility in that date, we certainly we'll try that, but at this time, there isn't.
So, unless there's any other questions, we've got a motion and a second.
I'll do a roll call.
Do a roll call.
Any questions from the audience? Roll call then, Grody,
Approved.
Hughes. Strauss.
Approved.
Sweeter.
Approve.
Dr. Brown, do you have any questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you. New business, we have been approached by Duke Energy in the last month about an easement across property owned by the Redevelopment Commission. I included some information on that. The mayor, myself, I have had continued dialogue with Duke Energy today on a number of questions that people have raised, as well as the mayor. I think there's no action required today. I did want the commission to know that we will at some point need to take some action on that. They are asking basically for a 32-foot wide easement on the south side of the industrial shovel-ready site. There is some concern that that's extremely wide for that type of request. I did get clarification today that they will allow us to build up to the easement, so we don't have to set back from that easement. That's part of the reason why the easement is so wide. It already includes the electrical safety boundary that's required by the National Electrical Organization that gives those kinds of recommendations. So if any of you have any thoughts or questions today during this meeting or concerns after, let me know. The mayor and I are going to have a meeting with the Duke engineers as well as the land purchasing arm of Duke Energy to discuss more thoroughly this request. But I'm happy to take any concerns or questions that you may have to present to them as well.
The drawings, the aerials somewhat look like this is just gonna be west of Wilson Avenue to State Road 7, is that correct?
Correct, and then ties into property there just to the, yes, just to the east of, just to the west of Shunpike, the old Robus property, as I understand. We have a couple of parcels in that. Okay. More to come. Next, is there any other new business that any of the commissioners have? If not, Mayor, I'll let you lead the next City Matters Mayor update for a ready project update, and we'll get ready for a presentation.
Yeah, I want to welcome our guests here today. Thank you, Tony. Tony's going to lead a presentation with our guests here in just a few minutes, but I want to share some exciting news with the commission and the community. Since the summer of 2021, we've talked frequently about leveraging our resources with public-private partnerships. This targeted approach to creating a capital stack that leverages city funding has proven successful, whether it be for roads and sidewalks, the improvements at Sunrise Crossing, which are underway, PACE program for historic preservation, Crystal Beach restoration, all of which have been creating millions of dollars of new investment across our city. As you know, the city submitted a Destination Madison plan in July 2021, which was a strategic plan to improve the quality of life in Madison and enhance our regional appeal. With a $2.6 million READY award, our first two projects under the plan are about to break ground, which will enhance the city's gateway and its cultural arts appeal. Today, we're very excited to announce 4 new shovel-ready Destination Madison projects that will leverage RDC dollars 7.5 to 1 and create additional new investment of nearly $7 million. I'd like to personally thank Hanover College, Heritage Trail Conservancy Board, the Ohio Theater, the Riverfront Development Committee, and Historic Madison, Inc. for their efforts to enhance our community. With private donations, the state Next Level Trails Grant, Ready and city dollars, our combined investment dollars can be more impactful than originally conceived. Tony will lead us through a presentation for the 4 new projects: the Riverfront Super Overlook, the Hanover-Madison Connector Trail, the Ohio Theater Facade Improvement Project, and Marquee, and the HMI City Overlook Bicentennial Park improvements. At the end of the presentation, we would ask the Commission to approve the Ready RDC plans, subject to our attorney's approval and the mayor's authorization to execute the documentation. Pretty exciting that we can bring to fruition this level of projects and acknowledge just the invaluable participation with our partners across the community. And I'll turn it over to Tony, and we'll get started on the plans.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Commission. Again, thanks for our partners. As we discussed in the financial planning component, things are fluid, projects are fluid. And as you know, that's no different for the city and the Redevelopment Commission as we look at these projects. But today, I think we have a good plan to move forward with the remaining ready dollars that makes sense to impact the community sooner with those dollars and to assist those who are already shovel-ready. So you'll see up in front of you that the current projects that we've already been awarded through the ready dollars are just shy of roughly $921,000. That gave us the just shy, it is shy of the $2.5 million in ready dollars, and leaves us $921,000 of ready dollars to reinvest in the community. Initially, that project was slated to be the bicentennial amphitheater structure and additional dollars for our Parks and Recreation Department. As we started to understand more in the last couple of months about the state of Indiana's idea of having a Ready 2.0, which will be going in front of the legislature this year, and the recognition that we would be required to raise additional bond capital for those projects, the mayor, along with myself and others, have decided that we think those would be ideal projects to move into the Ready 2.0 category, to ask the state for that money first and let the RDC dollars leverage itself, we hope, even further than we would currently. So today, with the remaining ready dollars, we are recommending that that we take $470,000 of that and support the grant match for the Madison Hanover College Connector Trail, and apply $250,000 as a grant with a dollar-for-dollar match for the Friends of the Ohio Theater to finish the exterior restoration and the marquee restoration of a very important Main Street asset, the Ohio Theater. The Ohio Theater already has the construction documents for both projects, and those projects can be ready to bid once they have funded the remaining amount. The Madison Connector Trail project was awarded, as the mayor said, $2.5 million. And I think you'll see in the presentation that there's others interested in supporting the grant match for that. And we will have that certainly constructed well before the ready dollars have to be spent. But in order to leverage our investment to our greatest potential, we need the Redevelopment Commission's participation. We know the HMI parking lot and enhancements required by our agreement with them will require additional $300,000 to leverage that with the other $200,000 remaining of the ready dollars for a $500,000 project that will improve the accessibility and parking for the Shrewsbury House and fulfills the obligations the city has with the agreement we have with Historic Madison Incorporated. And then finally, we would ask that the RDC support the Super Overlook project, and we'll have a presentation on that with an additional ask of $500,000. That project is currently under construction and was not eligible for ready dollars because of the way the procurement process went in that regard. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Bob Green and Kay Stokes to talk about the Madison Hanover College Connector Trail project.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing us the time to talk with you today. I'm Kay Stokes. There we go. I'm Kay Stokes from Hanover College.
And I'm Bob Green with the Heritage Trail Conservancy.
We are so excited about this project. It is in the city's master plan. It is in the county's master plan. It envisions a trail that would connect the town of Hanover and Hanover College all the way into downtown Madison. This project is closer to reality than one might envision, given that it's 6 miles long. And that is because we have contiguous property ownership between Hanover College, IKEC, the state park, the city of Madison, and the Heritage Trail Conservancy. We own the vast majority of the property needed to make this trail happen. We received more than $2 million in Next Level Trails funds to fund the first segment of the trail, which is the segment that runs from downtown Madison to the state park. So those dollars are already acquired, and that puts the first leg of the trail that much closer to reality. The money that you would be allocating today would provide a 20% match for that $2 million grant from Next Level Trails. The Heritage Trail Conservancy is the granting organization for the funds, and as you can see, the trail would run from downtown Madison up through the current footprint of the Heritage Trail. It would cross Crooked Creek on a new bridge that would allow beautiful scenic views of the old historic railroad bridge, and then would proceed along that Heritage Trail spur to the state park. The state park gets, as you probably know, well north of 500,000 visitors a year, more like 800,000 visitors a year in the age of COVID. And those people will now be able to bicycle into downtown Madison, and Madison residents will be able to bicycle and hike up into the state park. The other long-term vision here for this trail project, if you look at the trail that extends all the way to the south, you'll see that it dead ends there at the base of Hanover Beach Hill Road. That puts it at the foot of County 310 West, which runs along the river down to Saluda Hill. The county is aware of our interest in taking that road and making it additional hiking and biking access. There's a portion that's washed out, but they would like to see it go into trail as well, or be kept open for purposes of walking and biking. So for the price that we're at now, you get in the end the 6 miles of trail that you see here plus another 8, and that puts us in shouting distance of the county line. And the regional development authorities desire to have what they call a world-class trail system in the 5-county region. So someday people would be able to come to Madison and use Madison as a trailhead to ride or hike or bike all the way into the Jeffersonville area and into Louisville. So that's the broad vision that we're looking at here.
Just like to add, first of all, thank you, because you all have put years of work and investment into the trail. We've been spending several years on master planning Main Street. So envision the new Main Street that's going to also be connecting at some point in time with this trail. There's modest sidewalks on the west end of downtown, but as we work on developing the Main Street plan, it's all about connectivity, connecting everybody together with these trails, and it's undeniable that trails have an invaluable benefit to a community, both for quality of life, but mental health as well as physical health. So there are so many different objectives that are embedded in the Trails project, which is why we think it's important.
Does the commission members have any questions? I would just add, too, that national studies show time and time again that property values associated and next to or connected to a trail system increase much more rapidly than those who are not. So I think this is certainly a great project for all, and certainly a great project for the county, and we hope to see that happen here shortly. So, okay. Thank you.
Think about thinking.
The next project I would like to have present today is the Ohio Theater facade and marquee restoration, and representing that organization, the president of the board, Elizabeth Oxshire.
Hello, thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate Tony and the mayor asking me to speak to you. You've already done a significant amount for the Ohio Theater with your stellar dollars that you gave in the past, and with those funds, we were able to put on a new roof, install new HVAC, and then repair masonry on all sides of the building except Main Street. So right now, the theater is the most physically stable it has been in decades, so for that, we do thank you. And we were also able to reopen in the spring, so you may have seen we've been having lots of movies and concerts, so people are very excited to get back in the building. So the next logical step is to work on the exterior, because it shows people that we are moving forward with this project and we are serious about it. So we already have the drawings in place for the exterior work and the marquee, so I anticipate having the matching funds raised by the end of November, and we'll be shovel-ready to take bids in January is our goal. The marquee, we had an expert marquee consultant come in and tell us what needs to be repaired. We're not going to change how it looks, so nobody needs to panic there. And then the facade, this picture shows like the, I don't know if that's wood on the front, but we will be using like a white glaze brick similar to what's on the theater right now. The current glazed brick is in such bad condition that we cannot save it, so we're going to go with a thin veneer that we've already talked to the historic board about. But we're excited and ready, and we have a lot of momentum right now, a lot of supporters and donors ready to help fund this project, so this is the perfect time to move forward with this.
You imagine the Ohio Theater marquee all lit up as you drive down
Yes.
Main Street and look at all the Christmas wreaths next year? It's gonna be fantastic.
Right, well, and you know, it's going to help us to have the marquee on in the night, because right now you can't see what's up there, so tourists who come in the winter when it's dark, they're missing a lot of what we have going on. So this is a perfect opportunity to help bring more people to Madison, because even just the past few months we've been open, we've had people coming from Colorado, London, Georgia. We promote ourselves within 150 miles of Madison, so we're getting a lot of tourists already coming to the theater, so we expect those numbers to increase once we are rehabilitated on the outside. Any questions? All right, thank you.
I would just state that any of the projects that have ready dollars, the city will maintain the process control in terms of the bidding and so forth as it relates to that and procurement of that. So we'll be doing that on behalf of the Friends of the Ohio Theater as they
And
move
what
forward.
Tony's alluding to is, we're a member of the RDA and an awardee. E&Y is the financial advisor to the IEDC, which is the grant award to the RDA. And then the RDA is contracted with River Hills, which is a regional economic development planning organization that's working with each of us on all of the individual applications. So we'll be involved in all the procurement and processing through River Hills, E&Y, and IEDC.
For both the Heritage Trail Project and the Ohio Theater Project,
and-
which
and
are
our-
both
and our
ready
own.
dollars, and our own. The next two projects, the Super Overlook and the HMI lot, would be projects that we would ask for some involvement from the Redevelopment Commission in helping those projects be leveraged and invested. And at this point, I'll look to Josh and John Bruns from the Redevelopment, from the Riverfront Development Committee, RDC2, right, to come up and make a quick presentation and an overview of the Super Overlook.
I'm Josh Kinsey with Building Analysis Services, along with John Bruns, Vice President of the Development Committee. As you guys know, we are in the process of currently constructing our massive super overlook. We have, because of funding, we have chosen to do this in 3 phases. The phases will be the super overlook portion. So phase 1 is here. Sorry. Phase 2 will be the seating on the outer skirts. Phase 3 will be the steel of, because of funding and the way the bids came in, we chose that we have to do this to meet the criteria that we need to be able to move this project forward. We are currently in the demo process of that right now. Construction is to be started hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks, once they get through with the demolition process. We are currently trying to get procurement for additional funding for the first portion, but mainly for the second and the third portion, to hopefully build this all at one time instead of having to complete it in additional phases. It will more than likely stretch out past the June 1st date to allow the regatta to happen, and then the final procurement of the rest of it will happen after that, after getting through the 4th of July weekend. Is there any questions?
Josh, you want to mention some of the contributors to the project?
Sure.
Because you've done a substantial amount of private donations that's making this happen, as well as your own investment.
Absolutely. The Riverfront Development Committee has allocated north of $250,000 into this project, from soft costs for construction documents and bid process. We've also gotten procurement from Arvin Sango of $250,000 from them. And then Nucor Steel also donated all of the steel, which is around $320,000 to $350,000 as well.
I believe Jefferson County Commissioners
Yes.
made a commitment, and then the Redevelopment Commission had pledged the original first $250,000.
Correct.
Any question from the commission? Again, this project is for an additional $500,000, the request today from the RDC.
Tony and team, what's the total anticipated cost now of this project?
Total is about 2.4.
That is through phase 3, which
Gotcha.
I did not include phase 3 as a part of the estimate.
And that includes soft costs as well.
So if you add that as a $2.4 million project, our leverage amount goes up to about $8 to 1, or 8.5 to 1. The final project would be funded partially by ready dollars and then additional capital investment from the Redevelopment Commission. The HMI lot, Poplar Street, and riverfront parking improvements. This project, if you look at this on your left, Commission, is Poplar Street. On the right, you'll see Central Avenue. The parking lot is the vacant lot across the street from Lamplighter Park there at our over at the point there on the riverfront. As a part of the agreement with Historic Madison, who's giving us the lawn there north of the alley on Poplar Street, you will note that we had some commitments in there, which was to improve that parking lot and accessibility from that lot to the Shrewsbury House up Poplar Street. This project does conform with all the requirements in the HMI agreement. It would allow for approximately 80 to 85 cars and golf carts located in the parking lot, as well as a passive lawn park with some celebration of Madison's history, both in leadership as well as in industrial history as a part of that passive park, and provide the AD accessibility and those things that HMI has requested.
Tony, I'll just mention too that it's probably been a decade or more when the original Bicentennial Park plans were designed, which included this as one of the initiatives. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They didn't get to that part of it. So there's been a lot of comprehensive planning over, the last really 20 years that we've gone back and looked at their applicability in today's investment timeframe, and modernized the design and also the integration into other projects that we're working on. And so, again, think about the impactfulness as you drive down Vaughn Drive a year from now, after you've left Crystal Beach swimming and sunbathing, and then you drive down to see a show at Bicentennial Park, and you're parking in this beautiful area, and walk up to the Shrewsbury House, and then you go down to Chibbol's and get ice cream and sit over at the Super Overlook. As you continue to stroll down Vaughn Drive, it is going to be the Miracle Mile of Madison. It's a 1.5 mile long riverfront boardwalk that has been, essentially changing for the last 3 decades because of the work that so many people, and particularly the Riverfront Development Committee, has done, a lot of with private donations. the redevelopment of our riverfront from, industrial to recreational. And a year from now, it's just going to be, just even more beautiful than it is now.
And I would just let the commission know that the parking lot and the HMI lot were a part of the amphitheater construction dollars that we initially had in Ready 1.0, if you want to call it that. We're peeling that off and getting that done, so Ready 2.0 will already have the parking in support of that permanent amphitheater structure. So we were just asking for a little additional help from the RDC to make this project a reality with the $200,000+ we're getting from the Ready dollars.
Well, and I'll just mention too, in closing, that we're taking what's somewhat of a blighted lot, in a very high profile area, and connecting it from the recreational area of our riverfront up to the historic district, and really capitalizing on all of the investment that historic Madison Inc. has made in that their complex there with Shrewsbury and their office spaces. And so it's exciting to see all of these things happen. And of course, you're right off of Main Street at the same time. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us to capitalize on all the work with these partnerships.
So, Commission, again, in summary, we're asking the RDC today to approve the Ready plans, and then for the amphitheater parking and HMI lot, $300,000 of our RDC dollars to be leveraged with the nearly $200,000 of Ready dollars. So
Tony, I think you mentioned earlier you want to do this in two
Yeah, I would
motions.
look for a motion for that, so that $300,000 from the RDC to go towards the amphitheater parking, HMI parking improvements.
Commissioner, any questions from any of the partners we have here who we're collaborating with to make a tremendous impact right now with these Ready dollars? And I think that's the truest sense of the purpose of the Ready plan, which is an accelerated development initiative, and that's exactly what we're doing.
So if we could get a motion and a second.
We have John back on?
Yeah, I think John's on. Get a motion and a second for a $300,000 commitment for the Redevelopment Commission towards the HMI lot and parking lot improvements.
You're going to do two?
Two motions.
Thought you were going to do all of them except for the overlook, and then do the overlook separately.
We are going to do the overlook separately.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yeah.
Thought I heard three motions there then.
Well, then maybe there's three. You want three? Oh, I know what you want. Okay, I apologize. Can we get a motion for the $300,000 for the RDC, dollars for the HMI parking lot?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Grody, we'll give Mr. Grody the second on that, if you don't mind. He's got that
Not at all.
delay, right? He wants to, thanks for tuning in from Las Vegas today. So we'll do a roll call vote. Hughes?
Approved.
Strauss?
Approved.
Sutter?
Approve.
Grody?
Approved.
Second motion would be to have the RDC fund an additional $500,000 towards a super overlook project.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? John, or I think they're waiting for you this time.
Yeah, second.
Okay, there we go. Good.
Giving him the opportunity.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call. Hughes?
Abstain.
Strauss?
Approved.
Suter?
Approve.
Grody?
Approved.
And then finally, a final motion to approve the new Ready plan for the city of Madison, Indiana, which would include the Madison Hanover Connector Trail and the Ohio Theater facade and marquee. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. Any discussion? Roll call. Grody?
Approved.
Hughes?
Approved.
Strauss?
Approved.
Suter?
Approved.
Thank you. Mayor, final comments?
All right, yeah, no, thank you very
John,
much,
thank you.
Commission, and to all our partners. We have a lot of work ahead of us to bring these opportunities to reality. And it's not just the heavy lifting that's happening here with everybody in the room, but as I mentioned, it's with IEDC, the governor's office, the Southern Indiana RDA, River Hills, and Ernst & Young as financial advisor. So, great day for Madison here. Thank you all very much. Relative to other matters and updates, we also have begun the work on Crystal Beach. So over the next few months, you will see two things happening at Crystal Beach, which is another major park improvement project on our prized riverfront, and that is the ribbon cutting for the opening of the pool house restoration, which has been ongoing for about a little over a year. And right now, we're really basically waiting on an elevator to show up before we can finalize that structure and get it open. It's going to be beautiful year-round space. And then we're under demolition now for the swimming pool. It's in an unsafe condition. It has to be removed. We are in the bidding stages for the actual pool reconstruction. So in the next couple of weeks, I think we'll see what the bidding looks like. But we are working through council and the City of Madison RDA for the financing of that public improvement project, which is, again, very critical to the city. Lots of work happening at Sunrise Crossing. Drive by there. You'll already see a building under construction, which for TJ Maxx and Five Below. There are two other buildings. Hobby Lobby has not started construction yet. That'll be next. We will be announcing in a couple of weeks, I think, a couple of additional retailers and restaurants we've been working on with the developer. And then the housing piece will be behind that. So a lot of activity occurring all across the community. I'll pause there. If anybody has any questions for me, happy to answer them.
Anything further? This meeting is scheduled for December 6th, 3 p.m. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much, Commission. John, thank you very much for making yourself available this afternoon.